Hi, my name's Randy Wolf, and I'm the director of Ministry Lift, a ministry dedicated to building capacity in people to love God and serve Him more effectively. Our topic for this video is on building capacity so that we can find a pastor. A lot of our churches, we're looking for pastors, and it's a challenge sometimes. And I want to offer several tips for successful pastoral searches. The first one is to pray much. One cannot underestimate the importance of prayer in a discernment process. We really want to discover what God has for us as a church, whether you're looking for a lead pastor, an associate pastor, or some other staff member for your church. As the search committee meets, I'd encourage you to certainly start with prayer, but to devote a significant chunk of time to prayer every time that you meet. As you encourage the congregation, give them reports on how the search is going, and encourage them to pray as well. Maybe even raise up a prayer team that will pray for God to help us find that next pastor. So that's the first tip. The second one is to understand that your primary role is to discern God's leading. You actually are not looking for the best candidate. You're looking for the right candidate, the one that God has for your church. And so this is why prayer is so vitally important in the whole process. And don't worry if an outstanding candidate doesn't fit or decides to move in a different direction. Getting no's from the Lord is all a part of discerning what He wants for you as a church. The third tip is to make sure that you are organized, that you have your ducks lined up in a row. Prepare all of the necessary materials, so that would include a job description, information about the church, including its history, core values, mission, all of those kinds of things, governance structure, maybe something about the community in which your church is located, and then have processes and timelines in place to help you stay on track as a search committee. The third tip is to search primarily along relational lines. Encourage people in your church to refer solid candidates to the search committee. Talk to them about your search, so that they know what you're looking for. When possible, I would encourage you to look within your congregation first. If you can hire from within, it certainly makes the transition for the candidate and his or her family and the church so much easier. So search primarily along relational lines at the start. The fifth tip is to touch base with influential connectors. Who are those key connecting type people within your denomination or network of churches? Talk to them about your search. They may be able to provide some quality leads. They know who's looking for a position, or they may be able to match what you're looking for with somebody that they know would be an excellent fit. In addition, I'd encourage you to advertise in places that your ideal candidate would likely visit. Tip number 6, develop a scorecard for rating applicants. Hopefully you will begin to receive a whole bunch of resumes, applications as people hear about the opportunity at your church. And it's really important to have some way of evaluating these ones as they come in. What I would encourage you to do is to have a system of some kind. This could involve assigning a numerical value to different parts of the job description and other characteristics that you believe are important for serving in that role. Then prayerfully use the scorecard to assess each application as it comes in. I found this to be just a very effective and efficient way of discerning which candidates are a potential fit for the position. Tip number 7, view each candidate as a potential staff member at your church. It's really important that we treat every applicant with the utmost respect and care. The reason I say this is that that's what we need to do as Christians with one another. I mean, that's vitally important. But you never know. Even though that person may not be a fit for the position you're looking for right now, they may be the perfect fit down the road for a different position that you're trying to fill. So view each candidate as a potential staff member at your church. Tip number 8, give yourself permission to track with only one candidate. Now, I realize that in the business world, it's common to take that large pool of applicants and reduce them to a short list. And that's completely fine in the church setting as well. But you may find that one candidate just stands out right from the beginning. And I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to track with only one candidate if it seems like that's what you need to do. Tip number 9 is to use assessment tools to narrow the field. So you've already used a scorecard to take that group of maybe 40 applicants and you've reduced it to a much smaller list, and perhaps you have now a short list of 4 to 6 candidates. I like to use assessment tools like Ministry Match because what it does is it really helps you to see the fit, how that person might fit in your church. But I would encourage you, before you look at the assessment results, that you make sure that you identify the kinds of results that you are looking for in a successful candidate. Tip number 10, this would be during the interview, is to ask experiential questions. So as you think about the candidate that you'll be interviewing, I'd encourage you to review the materials you have from that person. If you've done some sort of assessment like Ministry Match, to take a look at that as well, review the references and all of that, and then ask the candidate to give examples from their previous work experience. So maybe you want to see how good they're at dealing with conflict. Ask them a question. So can you describe for us a time when you had to manage conflict in your previous ministry? And what it does is it shows their experience and the kinds of skills that they have used in the past. Tip number 11 is to communicate regularly with the congregation, because they're going to be hearing bits and pieces and they'll be filling in the gaps. So it's much better to just keep on communicating with them. Even if a month has gone by and you haven't necessarily made significant progress, it's just so important for you to get up there and just to say that and keep, encourage them to keep praying for the entire process. And then tip number 12 is to give the candidate maximum exposure. So the time has come where you have narrowed in on one person, a candidate for the position. You've invited them to come visit the church. Make sure that they have opportunities to meet as many people as possible, to not only do the big group stuff, but also small group and one-on-one as appropriate. What that does is it brings the congregation in closer, gives them an opportunity to build relationships, and of course that works with the candidate and the congregation as well. But what it does also is it adds a sense of ownership on the part of people in the congregation. They now feel like they are a vital part of the process, and they are. And certainly when they make their decision later, they will be able to do so in a much more informed way. So those are just a few tips for pastoral searches as you seek to discern who God would have for you in that pastoral position that you're trying to fill.